Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Malone Bailey's official podcast, Everybody Counts. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Matt Setzikorn, and I am the administrative assistant here at Malone Bailey, and I'm also the host of our podcast. Now, Everybody Counts features various perspectives on a variety of topics, from the latest SEC updates to discussions on recruiting, retention, and so much more. Everybody Counts explores trends and hot topics that affect us and all of us in our business. Now, today we're going to be diving into the fascinating world of audit, specifically focusing on the journey from new hire to audit senior. We'll hear from a few of our team members who have experienced this transition firsthand, and they'll share insights on challenges, advice for new hires, and what it takes to succeed in auditing field, as well as one of our recruiters to give everyone a little bit of tips and tricks to get your foot through the door. So joining me today is Carolina, Malone Bailey's recruiter, and Sarah and Joey, two of Malone Bailey's audit seniors. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining. So first things first, let's get some introductions out of the way. Now, if you're familiar with our podcast, I'm sure you're aware of Carolina at this point. She's been on a couple podcasts here previously. However, Carolina, for those who haven't kept up with us within this past year, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, of course. So my name is Carolina. I'm the recruiter here at Malone Bailey. A little bit about me. I graduated from the University of Houston, and I have been recruiting for about 4 years now. Just hit my year anniversary at Malone Bailey this summer. So very excited to be here and talk more about these topics with our staff today.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad to have you back, Carolina, and congrats on your 1 year. Big milestone. So we also have Joey with us today. Joey, go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk about how long you've worked at Malone Bailey, where'd you go to school, etc.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for inviting me. I am Joey, and I went to University of Illinois for my master's degree in accounting, and I joined MB after my graduation in 2022. So I've been around for about 2 years, and I'm now working as an audit senior.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Joey. Sarah, it's your turn. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me on today. So I went to Sam Houston State University for my undergraduate. I got a bachelor's degree in accounting, graduated in December 21. MB was my first job out of college. I've been here a little over 2.5 years now, and I'm currently working at MB as an audit senior.
Awesome. We're so glad to have you here today as well, Sarah. Thank you all again for joining me. We're just going to jump right into things. So to kick things off, we're going to start with you, Carolina, to kind of dive into the world of the recruiting side, and then we'll go over to Sarah and Joey to discuss more of the audit role itself. So, Carolina, you play a really key role in recruiting new talent here at Malone Bailey. So, what do you look for in candidates at career fairs or even during initial interviews for audit positions? Like what qualities make a candidate really stand out to you?
Yeah, so first I'll start with the career fairs. So a couple of things for the career fairs, definitely having your resume with you and having it already updated. And asking questions, making eye contact, going up and introducing yourself to the company. Come with some questions, things that you want to know as well. And then for your initial interviews, a couple of tips. Let's hear. Be having some things that stand out, qualities is like look for those questions prepared, the enthusiasm for the position, and also knowing like why you applied for the position or why you're interested in the firm. And smiles are always great too.
Well, that's some really valuable insight. Can you talk us through the typical hiring process for entry-level audit positions? What should candidates really expect going into their first year?
So the hiring process, first step is going to be to submit your application. Make sure that you fill out all the fields in the application process there. If you are selected to proceed in the application process, then you will connect for a video call with the recruiter, me, for the initial interview. And then after advancing after the first round of initial interview, then the next step would be the final interview with our hiring team.
Yeah.
And then they will discuss, and then we will have the offer following that.
Awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like preparation is definitely a really crucial tool to have there. So how can students and recent graduates best prepare for those interviews for audit roles specifically? Are there any specific types of questions that they should prepare themselves for?
Yes, absolutely. So first thing, review the job description before your interview. Knowing what the job entails that you're interviewing for is going to help you, one, prepare questions, but also be able to better answer the questions that the hiring team is asking you. Also, prepare ahead with questions. Know who you're going to be interviewed by. If you don't receive that information, ask for that information so that you could see who you're going to be interviewed by and can better prepare questions. Know your transferable skills, especially for our entry-level positions that don't require experience. Any paid or unpaid experience that you had previously, know the skills that you have learned and can also use in this new role. And know why this position and Malone Bailey. I know we've touched on this previously too, but I think that's very important because you will be asked that in interviews. And that is one thing that I always see everyone kind of get deer in headlights in because they don't expect a personal question, but knowing that will be very helpful. And last tip, and also questions that you can maybe expect in interviews is, like 2 to 4 key elements that you need from an organization for your eventual success. Preparing with those, I think, really sets you apart. It's going to make your interview a whole lot smoother as well.
Awesome. Well, that's some really good advice there. So I guess on the opposite side of that coin, I want to ask you about some common mistakes that candidates make during the recruitment process. Can you give us any pointers on how to avoid those tips and really avoid those mistakes that people make?
Yes. And for the recruitment process, a couple of things that I would say to avoid or mistakes that I see happen is incomplete applications. Fill out your application entirely. Reach out to the recruiter and confirm that your application, went through and they received it. Resumes that are not up to date. That is also something, make sure that you proofread it, that you have added and updated from the last time that you used your resume. Make sure you're putting in everything that you're doing, especially if you are in college at the university and still studying. Make sure you update to make sure it provides your graduation date, your major, your GPA, all of those important dates that they are correct. Another one that I see be not asking questions. Research the firm before you submit your application. Read the job description prior to submitting your application so that you know exactly what position it is that you are applying for and the firm that you're applying for. I see sometimes I'll hear, oh, I don't even remember applying. Know where you're applying, keep track of it, follow up on your application.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a lot about being thorough and prepared and making sure you're double checking everything. So, in your experience, how important is cultural fit when recruiting for CPA firms, and how can candidates really demonstrate that they're a good fit, that they would fit in to the company culture and just the company as a whole?
Yeah, it's definitely important. Yes. And how a candidate can demonstrate that they're a good fit is going to be showing your enthusiasm for the firm or the position and doing your research beforehand. Again, preparation. It's all about preparation and asking the questions. And you're not just in the final interview round, but in your initial interview rounds, when you're connecting with the recruiter. That is an opportunity for questions. And also to show your interest, having something preparing before and reviewing the website, the firm, helps you also find out why it is that you want to apply and be an employee there. And then you can demonstrate, why you're a good fit once you know why it is that you want to, why you want, then that way you can demonstrate why it is that you're such a good fit for that firm and that position.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So, how can candidates showcase their skills and experiences on their resumes to make sure that they're more appealing for these audit roles?
I think the best way to do that for the entry level is going to be highlighting your extracurriculars, your accomplishments and accolades, your degree, any paid or unpaid experience during college. That is something I recommend. And then those who are maybe already with 1 year of working experience, I would look at the job description. When you go to prepare to submit your resume, make sure that you're considering all the parts that go into that role, because sometimes you may overlook things that you have done or are currently doing in roles that maybe you didn't think about adding to your resume. But if you look at the job description, it tells you what the responsibilities and duties would be, what the requirements, the experience that they're calling for, and that way you can better tailor your resume for each individual position.
Well, those are some great points to consider for anyone really looking to break into the field. How do you evaluate the potential candidates who may not have as much practical experience but show strong academic performance?
Yes, definitely do behavioral type questions, and also which could fall into, you can do multitasking examples, showcase yourself, if you did any tutoring, extracurriculars at the same time, whether it's paid or unpaid, shows that you can multitask, but also shows responsibility. Any challenges that you've had to overcome in your college career, whether it was, hey, juggling on this extra class that you took, or having additional responsibilities or commitments that you have to then prioritize and time manage. That showcases as well. I think those would be the ones that I would say that if you have a strong academic performance, it's also a way to showcase yourself, things that we look for.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So, lastly, Carolina, what advice do you have for candidates who are navigating multiple offers or really trying to decide which auditing firm is the best fit for them?
Ask all the questions before you sign an offer. Don't be afraid to request an additional call with the recruiter to go over questions before signing. Do your research, ask alumni that you see that are working there. Look at the social media platforms of the firms to see what's it like working there. And Glassdoor reviews. A lot of employer reviews are on there too, so you can get a peek as to, former employees' experience, and helps you kind of narrow down to see which one is the right and the best one for you. Ask yourself not which firm, but what do you want and need from your organization for your eventual success, and then see which one fills those needs for you.
Well, that's some fantastic advice, Carolina. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. Now, we're going to pivot just a tad. So let's say you follow all of Carolina's incredible advice and now you've landed your very first auditing job. Congratulations. But what does the road ahead look like? Now, Sarah and Joey, let's kick things off by hearing about your journey in audit. Can you share your experiences from your first year in audit and to your current role as an audit senior? And what were some of the challenges you faced early on? So, Sarah, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Matt. In my first year in auditing, it got busy real quick. I started in January 2022, so my first busy season was already in session. A big challenge I faced was understanding first what I was doing. As a staff, you're probably going to be given many tasks by different supervisors for different clients, and it's easy to get caught up in completing those tasks without thinking about why you're really doing them. It's important to take time to ask questions and really understand the purpose of our work. As I moved from staff to senior, learning to manage multiple deadlines and working efficiently were also some other challenges. but over time, as you gain experience, you get better in these areas.
Yeah, I got the same experience. For me, when I started out in audit, it was a real learning curve. The biggest thing I learned early on was the importance of understanding how businesses operate. It's not just about ticking out boxes when you do the audit work. You need to get why we do what we do and how it fits into the bigger picture of the financial statements as a whole. As I moved up to being an audit senior, the business acumen became even more crucial to the job. So my advice to dive into understand the business side of things. It'll pay off in the long run.
So, what advice would you give to new hires entering their first busy season in audit? How can they best prepare for the demands of the job and so on? Sarah, you basically started right away in a busy season, so I'm sure you've got plenty of tips to share.
Yeah, Matt, I do. First, don't be afraid to ask questions and don't worry too much about your hours in the beginning. As a new staff, you'll be introduced to assignments you're probably going to be unsure about, and it's okay to ask your supervisor for help. It's our responsibility as seniors to help staff learn and grow as auditors. Also, don't stress about working too many hours. Ask your supervisor how much time they expect you to spend on a task. And if you're taking longer, it's okay, just let them know. It's better to ask for help than struggle in silence.
Right. So, Joey, what are some common misconceptions that new hires have about working in audit and how can they manage those expectations?
Yeah, there's a lot out there. A common myth is that auditing is all about crunching numbers. While in reality, we do a little of that, but it's actually more about understanding our clients' processes and their schedules and collaborating with them. And besides, no, we can't help with their taxes. I can barely manage my own tax returns.
Dang, I was really hoping you could help me with my taxes this year. I want to ditch TurboTax, so it's getting really expensive, but I guess I won't ask you this time. Um, Balancing client deadlines with maintaining accuracy and quality is just a really big part of the job at hand that you guys face every day, especially in y'all's first year. So, Sarah, how did you handle that really delicate balance?
For me, during my first year, balancing client deadlines while maintaining good work quality was actually a big struggle for me personally. I didn't want to sacrifice the quality of my work, but had several clients with major deadlines around the same time. So managing that was a bit of a challenge. But over time, I've come to learn there are good ways to balance these things. First, prioritize your client work. Discuss with your supervisors which clients' deadlines have the most priority. Second, plan your client's work and manage your time on each. It's best to break down your assignments so you don't get overwhelmed and work on the client's work in the order of priority and be sure to allocate enough time for each. Third, communicate with your team and let them know of your plans and scheduling so they can plan as well. Because remember, the auditing industry, auditing is a team effort, and there's always someone else who can help on a task when someone else is busy on another client.
That's really good advice, Sarah. Thank you. Joey, what about you? How did you manage the pressure?
Yeah, I agree with Sarah. Balancing deadlines with quality can be tough. Honestly, it just takes practice. I personally prefer to prioritize quality, even if it means taking a bit longer. In my opinion, it's better to do a thorough job than rush through it and risk errors.
Yeah, quality over speed seems to be the mantra to live by in the auditing world. So let's shift a little bit and talk about skills now. What key skills do you think that new hires should focus on developing on in their first year to advance their careers in audit? Joey?
I would say the communication is huge. Being able to clearly share ideas and work well with your team can make a big difference. It's also important to contribute to a positive work environment. You know, teamwork really does make the dream work.
Yeah, that's so true. I really agree with that. Let's wrap up with a couple more questions here. Sarah, can you share a moment when you felt particularly challenged in your first year And how did you overcome that challenging moment?
So during my first year, I started in a busy season. For me, I worried a lot about the efficiency of my work, worrying about working too many hours on my clients as a new hire. My mentor really helped me in understanding the truth that efficiency comes with time and experience. And it's always more important, especially as an auditor, to put the quality of your work first. By practicing prioritizing client work, planning ahead, and constantly communicating with my team, I've improved in this quality and still work on improving it today.
And you mentioned your mentor, and it seems like mentorship really played a big role for both of you. And I know that mentorship's a big deal here at Malone Bailey. So, how important do you think it is for the first year of an audit career, and how can new hires find a mentor within their firm?
Um, Having a mentor in the first year of your audit career is, as you said, it's really important. It's very beneficial. Your mentors are the ones, you can feel you can ask any questions of and communicate all your issues and struggles that you have at the firm and may not feel comfortable communicating to anyone else. At Malone Bailey, we have a really nice buddy mentor program, actually. Every new hire is assigned their own buddy and mentor right at the start. So your buddy would be probably a fellow colleague closer to your level, and they can help answer all your day-to-day questions. Your mentor would be a manager, and as well as them answering your questions, they help guide you and support you on a long-term basis in your professional growth at the firm.
So I know a main concern a lot of people have when they're entering the field is work-life balance. And it's a really important topic, especially nowadays, especially in a demanding field such as auditing. So how did you manage to maintain it during your early years? We'll start with you, Joey.
Yeah, I know audit jobs often come with long hours and tight deadlines. It's important to set clear boundaries to avoid burnout. Make sure to communicate your limits with your team and find time for activities you enjoy outside of work, like spending time with your family, with your friends. Keeping that balance helps you stay sane and focused.
What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I agree with Joey's points, especially at the beginning of your audit career. Work-life balance may seem difficult to attain, but it is attainable. Set aside time for non-work activities in your weekly schedule so you can have a break. Even in the busy seasons with multiple deadlines and those endless hours, fit in some time for taking walks, spending time with family, to get a break from work. And also, again, communicate. Let your team or your mentor know when you're feeling overwhelmed at any time, as no one wants that. And we can always schedule around that so then no one feels overwhelmed.
Okay, yeah, good tips, good tips. So the transition from student life to a full-time professional role can be a really big adjustment. It can be really daunting for anyone coming into the field. So how did you both manage this shift? We'll start with you, Sarah.
Yeah, so Malone Bailey was my first job out of college, so the transition was both exciting but scary at the same time. I think the biggest adjustments was the change in environment. School was a steady, educational environment, where you got grades for assignments and it really just affected yourself. But when you did your first job in the auditing industry, you realize it's a bit faster paced, it's a professional work setting, and you're personally accountable to your employers. And most of all, I realize now that, your work affects and contributes to others.
Joey, what about you?
Yeah, transitioning from student life to a professional role was challenging, even though my internship gave me a taste of the corporate world. Adjusting to the full-time demands was tough. The big shift was realizing I needed to take ownership of my career and all my responsibilities. While the technical skills from my accounting classes were useful, adapting to the professional environment really took some time.
Well, that's some really good advice to end on, in my opinion. Thank you both, Sarah and Joey, for sharing your experiences and insights. That's all I have for you guys today. And I hope our listeners will find your advice incredibly valuable as they navigate their own careers in audit. And I also wanted to thank you, Carolina, as well, for all of your insights on the recruiting side of the process. Hopefully, some listeners listen to your advice and they can land that dream job of theirs that they have whenever they graduate school. All right, well, that concludes all my questions for now. We're going to shift gears just a little bit and play a little game we like to play here on the podcast. It's called This or That. So I'm going to ask you all a question and you'll choose whichever one you prefer. All right? So the first question I have is soda or coffee? Carolina, what about you?
Coffee.
Coffee? All right, Joey?
I'm not a coffee drinker. Diet Coke is all I need to wake up in the morning.
Gotcha. Sarah, what about you?
I actually don't drink coffee either, so soda would be it.
Okay. Second question is summer or winter? Carolina?
Summer.
Summer? All right. Joey, what about you?
I love winter, but it's a shame we don't get much snow here in Houston. There's nothing better than staying cozy in bed on a chilly winter morning.
Yeah, Houston, we get summer, fake fall, fall, and then summer again. So it's we're not getting much of the winter here. Sarah, what about you?
Mm, being a Houstonian, summer for sure.
Summer? Okay. We got some summer fans, unfortunately. Um, Final one is staying in on a Friday night or going out with your friends on a Friday night. Carolina?
Mm, probably with my friends.
All right.
With my friends.
Joey, what about you?
I stay at home every night, enjoying my solitude. I just prefer keeping to myself.
Yeah, I feel you. I get you. Long week, you want to stay home. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, I, I do agree with Joey, like especially after a long week, staying home on Friday night's really nice. Recently though, I think I'll go with going out with friends. I kind of every Friday evening go out with my sisters out to the mall or something. So
Oh, okay. That sounds like a fun time. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. That concludes today's podcast. Thank you again, Carolina, Sarah, and Joey, for all y'all's helpful information today. I'm very appreciative of you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. I had a really good time talking with you guys. I hope you all had a great time as well. To everyone listening, we really appreciate you listening in and invite you to check out our website, www.malonebailey.com, for more information about public company audit services, as well as some other useful resources. Thanks again so much for listening.